Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Monday Night Football NFL DFS slate breakdown for Washington Commanders at the Kansas City Chiefs. Let's get after it. I'm your host, Tyler Weeman, and before we get into it, come join us at LINESTAR. $39.99 per month gets you access to all we do, the props, the DFS. You get it all for one low price. We also do have a free trial. If you've never tried us out before, come try us out for free. You can get access to that promo on the website or through the app stores, Android or iOS. Download it, give us a review, try us out for free, and let's get into it now. So position by position, we got a 48.5 game total. KC minus 10.5 favorites at home. There are some interesting ways to go, though, with this game, and we'll dig into that now, starting with position by position. On our team defense tool, it's a tough spot for Marcus Mariota, but it's a slightly above average spot for Patrick Mahomes, and he's Patrick Mahomes. It doesn't matter what defense it is, he's going to be able to get his. The thing that I think is interesting pricing-wise, on DraftKings, Mahomes, $11K. Mariota at 9.2K, I think, is a great value. But if we go over to FanDuel, only a $600 difference between the two is absolutely wild. Mariota should come, fairly low owned because of that. So there is some nice leverage there. He obviously has some rushing upside, can rush for a touchdown. So he is a little interesting, and I definitely like him on FanDuel on DraftKings at only 9,200. There's just solid upside. I mean, when he has got starts, he gets you, 20 points pretty much. 17 versus the Falcons. He got 21 versus the Raiders last year, 26 versus Dallas. He only played sparingly in this game, so we can't really, talk too much into that. But there's upside with Marcus Mariota. I don't mind going there. Not only that, the Chiefs are giving up rushing yards to the quarterback, and that's where Mariota is really going to pay off, is the rushing game. So don't hide from him. Go ahead and throw him in your lineups. And then obviously Patrick Mahomes is Patrick Mahomes. The man has huge upside. Now, my one thing with him is I don't think we're going to see him rush all that much. If the game is close late, we could see some rushing upside, but I think he may try to take it a little bit easy. And last week, we only had 4 rushes from him in a 31-0, dominant victory. I think versus the Commanders, where they're 10.5 point favorites, unless it's a close game, it's going to be another one where we just don't see that much rushing. And that's how it has been all season long. In games that they need to win, that are close, Mahomes' rushing upside comes out. If it's not close, then there's no rushing upside, which obviously severely hurts his upside. Now, getting over to the RB spot. This is an interesting one to digest and talk about. So both teams have multiple backs that they use, and that is the issue here. To add on to it, you have on the KC side, there's Brashad Smith, who they obviously like, who they are trying to bring along a little bit. And he ended up playing 35% of the snaps last week, with Kareem Hunt only at 19%. Now, Kareem Hunt got banged up, likely why Smith played more, but we don't really know how that's going to go today. We don't know if, hey, maybe Brashard Smith is going to end up being the RB2 here. I mean, he is more explosive. He's a better pass catcher. We haven't seen him too much in the running game yet, but there are many paths to Brashard Smith getting a little more work, and at 4K is interesting. Kareem Hunt, on the other hand, he's 3K. If he's playing his 30% of snaps, he can do enough. He can fall into the end zone to be optimal, but he hasn't been very efficient. And I mean, he's just a plodding back at this point in his career. I just don't love the upside. The reason to play him is that he falls in the end zone. You know, he gets a 1 yard carry that's a touchdown, and then at 3K, he ends up being optimal. But figuring out this Chiefs backfield is an interesting one. Isaiah Pacheco is clear-cut WR1. The other thing with the Brashard Smith playing 35%, it was a huge blowout. So that also could factor into it. In close games, Pacheco has played 60+% of the snaps, 2 of the 3 weeks. And last week in the blowout, he still played 56. So I think Pacheco is the clear number 1 right now. But then who's 2 and who does get some work is, a toss-up between Hunt and Smith. Then on the other side, we have the Washington Commanders, where Bill does look like the RB1, but he hasn't been doing all that much lately. 13 for 13 with 2 targets, 1 reception for -1 yards versus Dallas last week. And the week before, 17 for 61, but he had fumbling issues. Time before that versus the Chargers, he absolutely went off. Up until this Dallas game, he had been efficient, and that totally just fell off. Now, I think the Commanders are going to need to run the ball. So I think early in this game, Bill is going to get some carries, and I think he is going to get his opportunity to put his mark on this team. It's just, can he get it or not? After Bill, Jeremy McNichols is the obvious passing down back, and been involved a little bit here. 2 carries, 2 targets last week, 4 targets, 3 receptions the week before with 2 carries. He's not going to get much carry-wise, but he will be involved in pass catching, and that's where he's going to make his mark. He's playing around 35% of the snaps, and then Bill is taking that larger percentage, and then Chris Rodriguez is barely playing. He played 13% in week 7. Likely is, a backseat to Bill, or he will be a backseat, but how much of that split comes through is what we're waiting to see. Most likely, I wouldn't be playing Chris Rodriguez. I do think at 3,600, he is too expensive, and the paths to him being successful are few and far between. Now, let's get over to the wide receiver room for the Chiefs, and let's take some look at the team defense tool for running backs. Pacheco is in a great spot, whereas Bill is in a terrible spot. Chiefs first versus RB1. But what we wanted to watch here was the WR1 spot. So this is Rashee Rice now, and we need to make sure we change that because Worthy is effectively the WR2 now. Rice, however, still is working back and only played for 40% of the snaps last week. So while he was targeted an absolute ton while he was on the field, he still, barely played. So Xavier Worthy, on their other hand, is going to play a decent amount. And then Terry McLaurin, it is a tough spot as the Chiefs have been very solid versus the wide receiver thus far, at least the wide receiver 1. Juju Smith-Schuster with Rice back is taking a back seat. He was only on the field 35%, and that's with Rice only playing 40% of the snaps. He is probably going to be up a little bit more, maybe 50, 55-ish%, but he did get 10 targets in that short amount of playing time. So you got to like Rashee Rice in this spot. The only thing is to expect 10 targets on 50% of the snaps is a lot. I don't know if he can, do that again, but he is going to be targeted a ton. They obviously absolutely love this kid. Mahomes has a great rapport with him. So he needs to firmly be, one of the options. At 9,600, I don't think he's too expensive, even in his limited timeshare. Next, we got Deebo Samuel 9K, 14-point projection. I like Debo here, and I like him more so with McLaurin there because McLaurin can stretch the field, give Debo a little more room to operate in the middle of the field. I think that just gives Debo so much more upside. So I'm absolutely interested in Debo in this slate. And versus WR2, the Chiefs are 21st. So I think Debo is a clear target and needs to be used in some DFS lineups. He's been good on the season, dealt with injuries, on week 6. He didn't do much, was hurt, sat out week 7. Now he's back for week 8. I mean, it is Mariota, but Mariota can still get Debo the ball. I'm fine having some. Hollywood Brown, I mean, it's going to be interesting and hard to pick any receivers outside of Worthy and Rice for the Chargers. The reason being, Hollywood Brown played 33% of the snaps last week. Tyquan Thornton played 33%. Juju played 36%. And I would expect Juju's shares to fall as more Rice plays more, because Rice is going to take a little bit more of those Juju type routes than anybody else. So outside of Rashee and Worthy, you're just taking absolute chances by the Juju, Hollywood, and Thornton plays. But all three are going to be on the field a little bit. I would side with Thornton being the better play just due to the fact of the routes that he runs. He's a big play guy. He's going to get only 2 targets probably, but one could be for 40 yards and a tutty, and then he is optimal. But he very easily could get totally blanked too. So just know what you're doing if you're putting in Thornton. Terry McLaurin coming back after 4 weeks absence. With it being a quad injury and with him being a receiver, I highly doubt they're bringing him back if he's not 100%, especially with, Jaden Daniels out. Also, there's just no reason to force him back early. With that being said, I'm fine going to Scary Terry, but I think the upside is severely limited with Mariota out there and in a tough matchup where the Chiefs have been very tough versus the wide receiver one. So I don't absolutely love the play. Fine to have a little bit, but not going overboard. And then if you want to go down, get a little different, there's Luke McCaffrey, Chris Moore, and Jalen Lane. I think Chris Moore pretty much loses his role with McLaurin back. Chris Moore was playing just like a sacrificial X. He was out there a ton, really didn't get much playing time or much love, but now McLaurin is going to take a lot of that work. So I would be going McCaffrey or Lane over Chris Moore. The big playability is there with both of them. Lane is a speedster, can definitely get deep and can cause some troubles with the ball in his hand. And then Luke McCaffrey, I don't know how he keeps doing it, but he keeps getting it done on like 1 to 3 targets a game and keeps finding the end zone on a broken play, for 30 yards or something like that. So that has continually happened, but it's hard to, see him get that lucky for a long time continuously. So while it's happened, he's had some success. I don't think it's super likely that it continues to happen. Josh thinks Kelsey. It's a Kelsey day. It could be. My issue with Kelsey is I think he's going to severely take a back seat here with our guy, Rashee Rice there, because they both operate in similar areas of the field. And Rice is just so much better at this point in their careers. But, Kelsey's going to get, 3 to 6 targets. It's just, does something happen when he gets it. Now getting over to the tight end spot. So Zach Ertz is the obvious tight end for the Commanders, and he's going to come in fairly high owned, 40% ownership, 5,600. No reason to not like Ertz. The only issue with Ertz is there's no yak with him. He's just going to pretty much fall down wherever he catches the ball, and that's what it is. But he has been heavily used around the red zone. He has 4 touchdowns on the year. You can probably count him for, 3 for 30 with a potential touchdown. So I don't hate going there. Kelce, I do think, is overpriced at $8K, but I mean, he has a role on this offense, and there's going to be targets there week in and week out. With Rice not likely getting 10 targets and 40% of the snaps again, maybe there is more upside for Kelce targets here. Maybe he gets 5, 6 instead of the 3, and Rice gets a little less love. But those are interesting. Outside of those two, it's like, you need that odd tight end touchdown, which hasn't happened for Gray. He is likely to get, 1 to 3 targets, but, nothing more than that. And if he doesn't get a touchdown, he is not used. Sanat has been playing a little bit, but really has not been doing much whatsoever. Hard to want to go there, but, the only way he is optimal is if he gets in the end zone as well. He is only 200, which does make it a little bit interesting, but he is only playing 25 to 30% of the snaps. Bates is probably the random tight end touchdown guy that you would want to use on Washington. The reason being is he's involved as a blocker, and so he'll likely be involved around the red zone, and he's playing 40 to 50% of the snaps. And last but not least, we got defense and kicker. My issue with the KC defense today, Mariota's not going to throw the ball that much. We've seen that time and time again when he's starting. We get 18 attempts versus Dallas, 21 versus Raiders, 27 versus the Falcons. They just don't want to open up the offense and have him really sling it. And so that is a downside with the Chiefs defense. Now, the Chiefs D could limit the Commanders, so there's maybe a decent floor because they're not going to score a ton, maybe won't get a ton of yards, but I think the offense is drawn up well enough. The Commanders should be able to score, and the limited amount of passing opportunities just takes away that ceiling. So I don't love the Chiefs D in this situation. I don't love the Commanders either, but there should be some opportunities to get a little different here. If you want to go the Commanders D, maybe Mahomes makes a mistake, which doesn't happen very often, but it can. Chiefs wise, if they're going 50% owned, I'm not touching that defense. I just don't think the ceiling is there. I would rather play it through one of the kickers, hoping something happens like the Steelers where, they're getting 4 or 5 field goals last night. And that is the one way it can definitely go, especially with Mariota at at quarterback, and them not being quite as efficient in the red zone versus with Daniels, where he's a lot more efficient. So both kickers in play. Defense options, I don't love in this situation. I just don't see the ceiling of the Chiefs, and that's my worry. If they are coming in at 50% owned, I can't go that route. So that'll do it for us today, guys. Hope you guys have a good one, and we will be back later with some NBA content, and then tomorrow starting with week 9 stuff. Y'all have a good one. Talk to you later. Peace.